let's see. Let's have Gene. Do you want to read the mission, sample mission?
Sure, thanks, sir. The Sampo Working Group develops and grows the value of the economic layer of the token engineering commons. It aligns this microeconomy with the TEC mission and the collective success and individual benefit of its token holders.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you. Hey, CryptoZach, welcome.
Hey.
So, hey. So I wanted to kick things off with this question. What's the one thing right now that excites you the most about Sampo? Like in terms of initiatives and things like that. What's the thing that you're like, you look at it and go like, that sounds cool. I would actually like to get more involved in that. I'm gonna turn it to CryptoZach.
I think it's the level of commitment and involvement and like the depth of brainstorming that each of us has and our kind of like how cutting edge we are and where we're trying to develop a framework that has never been developed before.
Cool. Do you want to pass it to somebody?
I'll pass it to Gene.
Thanks, CryptoZach. Yeah, I'm excited about the job board. I think that's going to be really neat, and looking forward to taking part in it. And I'll pass it to Nate.
Yeah, I'm really just genuinely excited about developing this economic layer as a whole. When it comes to the efforts of the Treasury and the jobs board and creating TEC token utility, I think there are a lot of amazing things that we can do, especially in the short term, that'll kind of change the face of the TEC and how we operate and how we work together. And so I'm just excited about developing this economic layer and really taking that into consideration, because we haven't been able to really do that before this working group. And so it does generally excite me. So I'll pass it over to Rex.
Well, I'd say I don't know if I can pick one, so I'm gonna say like the shared knowledge that Sampo is providing to the TEC. I think that there's a lot of very smart people working together, and I think we're gonna fulfill our mission. I'll pass it to. Is Septi still here? Or yes, I'll pass it to Septi.
Thanks, Rex. Yeah, for me, it's like kind of like Nathan Rex. Like, if we get to figure out how to build regenerative economies that are sustainable, then we can just copy paste everywhere, and then crypto economic abundance, and that's a dream. I'll pass it to Richard.
Thanks. I think for me, I'm super excited to learn about token engineering as a field, and also contributing to building this economic layer as well. I think I have a lot to learn, and I'm just really excited to get going. I will pass it on to Hiram. I hope I said that right.
Thank you, Rachel. Yes, that was perfect. Yeah, I'll second a lot of the things actually CryptoZach said. Just the involvement and enthusiasm and talent just all came together in this working group was initially so exciting for me. Just my second week, love being here, and also just creating sustainable token utility. Also, in terms of ongoing initiatives, I guess the token engineering request board has been on definitely one of the initiatives that excites me the most, as I think this has such a core importance at this point to Gideon, I'll pass it back to you. I think everyone went, right?
Cool. Thank you. Oh, so why don't Bear? Why don't you go?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so for me, I think I would also like echo with what Nate said, like the economic layer as a whole. I think it's super exciting to be able to start bringing solutions to the TC. And at the same time, the opportunity of like building and co-creating like the way we are organizing here in Sampo, like within the working group. I think it's also super exciting and just open full of a lot of opportunities. So it's really exciting. Pass it back to you, Gideon.
Okay. NT, how about you?
Sure, thanks. It's really hard to choose between all the things we have going on. I'd say overall, what excites me the most about Sampo is, the shared knowledge and all of that, but also how quickly are we moving and how fast are we getting things done. And if I had to bet on the specific initiatives, probably the treasury management and the um, on the request board and consulting services. I think those are probably the things I bet more like on future term for the TC. And so yeah, back to you, Gideon.
Okay, cool. So I'll answer, and then hopefully it's not too loud. I had to turn on a fan here because it's hot for us Seattleites, at least. The thing, so I would say the thing that I'm most excited about is actually, yeah, it's echoing what Nate and a couple others said, which is the just figuring out how we run ourselves as an economy, as a microeconomy, rather than like we're not just an organization, we're not a corporation. You know, a lot of the rules of the past are we got to learn from those for sure. But this is a little bit different. It's like we're launching an economy, and so what does it mean to be an incubator in that economy, and how do we be very agile at helping groups kind of like form new initiatives and then get launched and then continue to provide value to the TEC so that it can sustain itself. And then also, I just got off a call with somebody from DAOstack, and there's a project that I've talked with a number of you about. I think I've mentioned it in like one of the previous calls, but there's a really cool opportunity to use some tools that they're developing to curate content so that we can bring a whole bunch of people with like interest in token engineering and DAOs into the TEC and get them like weighing in on sharing content and then helping to evaluate and curate that content. I think it's going to be super, if we do this, it could be super powerful for our ability to engage the right people, like the people who are really like token engineering professionals and DAO, people who are building DAOs. But then also I think like there's an angle here for like helping our Twitter feed so that we can start to pump out some really interesting stuff, and maybe even the token holder channel here. We might be able to use some of the content that comes out of that for that. So anyway, I just got off that call and I'm super pumped about that. Okay, let us now turn to updates. First one is actually Bear. Do you want to just handle this? The new call.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so based on the availability that everyone provided on the doodle, it seems that the best time where the most people can make it for the call will be on Thursdays, 1 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. CET. I know there's a couple that might not work for them, but hopefully there's a possibility maybe in which you can change some things to be able to make it, because I think it's important to have, especially the people that are most engaged in the group, to be in the call. So this will be starting next week, so just like a heads up. So it doesn't surprise you. I will update the TEC calendar, so that should be good as well.
Okay, thank you. And actually, while we're giving the updates on these other, while I'm talking through these other things, maybe what you can do is just go into your calendar and move it right now so you don't forget. The timing again is it's right here on the screen, so you can do that. And I'm really sorry if we're losing. Like if this is a hard time for. Generally, this worked for everybody, but I know that there were a couple of people that didn't indicate this as an open time. It's just so hard for people in Europe to make this time. Like we're asking them to come really late. So that's why we had to try to shift it. Okay, just really quickly, the consulting, the token engineering request board is moving forward. We're Tam is trying to pull together the contents of the form this week, hoping to have that in the next couple days. And we made some simplifying assumptions, NT and Tam and I. We looked at a couple of different options. Like we were thinking for a little while we might actually pump this through Discord, have the requests go through Discord. But when we really started kind of going through this, it became clear that for now at least, it makes the most sense to have this up on the TEC forum. We're going to create just like a special category for these requests, and that's how we're going to get started. And like the hope is that we will get this up within like a week and a half to 2 weeks. So it's a little bit late. It's a little bit later than what we said, like by a week, but we're going to be pretty close to getting this right on when we were trying to do, which was a super aggressive timeline to begin with. So excited about that. The token holder channel update. I'm just going to do a quick update on this. NT's done a ton of work on figuring out what the best technical solution is. He's recommending, and he just posted this up on the TC forum. He's recommending that we go with Guild XYZ as our token gate. So that's the technical solution. And then Richard's doing a bunch of thinking right now about the content that will go into that channel initially. We're going to try to keep it pretty simple, but she's already been asking some really good questions about like what it is that you want to put in there, what's the purpose. Zeptimus, actually, I think that we'll probably want to try to set up a time to just talk with you about how we take some of the existing data that's in the dashboard and Rex also may be in the spreadsheet and be able to republish that in that channel so to get some more awareness for that information for people who actually hold the token.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And the master sheet is done. We finalized it with Rex. He's a wizard. So yeah, it's done. So I don't know if Rex is presenting it today, but it's super cool. It's awesome.
Yeah, super excited about that. He actually is going to demo it today, so we'll all get a chance to take a look at that. And then the Treasury policy update. Nate, I'm just going to try to summarize what we talked about, but just feel free to correct me, okay?
Go for it.
Yeah, so basically the short version of it is Nate has been doing a ton of work, like diving into the detail. Like you kind of have to dive into the details of this thing to look at what all the options are, even like get a handle on it. And so he's like just been like diving in deep and like looking at the actual like operational constraints, and then also like higher level, like what are the goals that we're really trying to optimize for, the principles and stuff. And so what he's trying to do first is basically pull together like a policy document. That will be the first thing that will go up. And I think, so then that will be followed up by an actual proposal for what we, kind of the way we go about doing it. And then after that, there will be, well, actually, Nate, should I just stop there?
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to say that tomorrow is my deadline for this. So like when I will have the next draft of the policy document that will be up for review. So if you have any comments or ideas after reading that tomorrow, please do so. And I will also have the first proposal and investment strategy up for review as well. And so these will be two separate documents, two separate initiatives. The Treasury policy will go up first for the community for community feedback, followed by the first proposal and investment strategy. But the second, the investment strategy and proposal, I would like to everybody in this working group to read it, to go through it, to point out flaws with it, because it'll be the rough first initial draft, and it'd be good to get everybody's thoughts on it. So thank you. Yeah, and I'll have that up tomorrow, and I'll ping everybody when it's up.
Awesome. Thank you. Great work on this project. It's really exciting to see this take form. Okay, so Rex, are you ready to walk us through?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
All right.
Stop sharing here, and then you can share, and then yeah.
Okay. So I'll send the link on Sampo so you can all see it. But yeah, the master sheet's done. We have all of the working group data all aggregated and standardized and so on, and with a couple more kind of categories and bits of information on it, like a description, whether it's recurring, and so on. I think the best place to start rather than kind of the whole set of transactions is probably the dashboard. So we've built in some charts on this that we thought could be useful. So we have the TC's fixed costs and variable costs. So you can see we're spending around about like $19,000 or XDAI a month on costs that kind of that we have are already settled for a longer period of time. That be stewards or a couple of other things, and a Lorenz curve, which I can explain if you want me to, but this basically what it's there to show is like how centralized is the DAO. Let's say so this is like a perfectly equal DAO is the blue line, and then that's like how we've actually been doing, just on the basis of like how much time people are putting in and how much money they're getting out. So yes, there's a lot of information here all aggregated together, and some pivots as well, so you can see like how much is everybody making, and then in this one, if you go through and select all the columns, you can also filter, and you can create a new temporary filter view, and then see, right, Enti, I'm going to pick on you. So you can see, like, what has Enti done for the community? Like, he's done a bunch for the marketing team, and updating Discord events and auditing. So you can see that for everybody. I'm not sure, basically this is up for Sampo now, so transparency work is done. We've built it, and we had added some metadata onto it. Now it's up to transparency to make use of this data, or say, right, we're missing this other category. So it's up to y'all. Yeah. That's awesome. The rest of the presentation.
That's awesome. So it's fair to say, let me just see if I can add a little bit of context here. Correct me if I'm wrong. So right now, all the working groups have a template, just like Sampo has a template that we use, and we're inputting all of our cost data and revenue data. No revenue data yet, but that will come. And then the cost data is in there. We're tagging it with various metadata. And
Yeah.
then all of that stuff is then rolling up into this spreadsheet, right? For each
Yes,
report.
yes. There's some like working groups that we've built a closer connection to, like Sampo, and others like with comms, we've built a script basically to just grab all the data straight from dwork and yeah, manipulate it so that it falls within our format. But yeah, but yes, most working groups it is like within Excel. And if you go to the very last one, which is working group _ sheets, you can see where all of these data sources are located. So you can go into Gravity, for example.
I like how you're calling it shampoo. Nice.
Yes. See, I'm glad you picked up on that. It's been a running joke. You're the second person to point it out, and I'm gonna keep it there just to make sure people are checking through. But yeah, so here you can see the Gravity one, and then each working group also has a set of dashboards that you can see, like how much money have they spent, how's it been every month, and what are they spending on. So here we've got actual category data. So they're spending most of the money on operations, not so much on advisory or content creation here at Gravity. So yeah, I'd suggest do spend some time, check it out, see if you need anything else in any of your Sampo projects, and ping me or ping Septi saying, right, it'd be really useful if we have this other visualization, and I'll build it in. Otherwise, this project is going to kind of roll as it is and just keep on collecting data over the months.
And like the one thing that I could see folks on Sampo, can you go back to the overview? Yeah, the dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think one thing that would be good is if folks in Sampo have thoughts about, I mean, not just random stuff, right? But like things that you think would be really useful for the TDC in terms of views on the data. I don't know what's the best way of getting that to you, Rex, but what would you prefer if we do have feedback on that?
Like, I don't mind whether like you DM me or put it into Sampo chat.
Okay.
Yeah, just basically stick it on a thread under this this last master sheet. I'll edit it and add a little bit more context to it, and yeah, just make a thread, just add to the thread, and then we'll work on that basis.
So, quick question, Rex.
Yeah.
In terms of, are these statistics only available after an update, or is there a continuous input of data into this? And
It's
how is
after an update. Yeah.
Okay. So just the audits, basically.
Essentially, it's yes. So each of the working groups does have to go through and. So the idea behind it is that the working groups, as they do their transactions, they go through and update it. So like when Sampo did their first few when they put the first few costs in, Septi was right on it. It was like, we're missing. It's not on the sheet.
Yeah.
But yes, the goal is so that the working groups kind of update it as they go. And then for those that are who are way more complicated, like comms that has 5 groups, we just have a script that basically queries the GraphQL data off of dwork and then transforms it into a Google sheet. And but that one we do have to manually update every so often. We haven't got something automatically updating that. Unfortunately.
Okay, no, I was just curious about that. So thank you, and thanks for putting it together.
No, no
Another
worries.
thing
It's been
that's
fun.
also worth mentioning is like we will update it for like the future, but right now the reward from the reward working group is like not the data that's in the forum is not accurate enough. Like it's like an estimate. Like it says, for example, it's like 0.6, then it rounds to 1, and then all the data was pretty bad. So we had a quick and dirty solution for the reward, which is not giving the people the values, and then also it's on the charts, like especially for people that it's not getting paid through conviction voting, just only through
Yeah.
rewards, not paying off like the chart. But we will improve it at some point.
Yeah, it was that there's basically a chi-squared pattern on rewards, right? Just following any economic. So even the numbers were rounded, and the data follows a chi-squared pattern, which basically means within each of the numbers that you're rounding, there's many more that you're rounding, like down than up. So yeah, the numbers didn't even after like they did not make sense. We have to go to their GitHub or something, and yeah, that'll be V2 of this.
So just to clarify, so first of all, so praise is included, the rewards is included in that, right?
So praise is included, but you don't have per person data. So here I've just, if I make it a bit bigger, you've got kind of the rewards payout for each month, but you don't have how much each person got just yet.
I see. Okay. And also just to clarify, so the updates on this, I just want to be clear on this. There's some scripts that you're running for comms, and so that, how often does that happen?
At the moment is if I run it we run that one 2 days ago, so that one's pretty updated at the moment. But yeah, we don't have a process for that yet to kind of update it every week or something like that.
Yeah.
It can be something that we can look into.
But generally speaking, aside from that, this is pretty close to real time, right? Is that true?
It should be, yeah.
So aside from comms, what you're seeing here is like pretty much the latest data. If the working group is inputted into the spreadsheet, it's going to show up here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Any other questions or comments from people?
Yeah, and it seems I may have not updated the settings on some of the working group sheets. So if you do click on one, because I just found it out, if you do click on one of these and you can't kind of see it or it asks for something, ping me and I'll update it. I missed the rewards one. Most of them are available, but if I did miss one, just let me know. I know. Just change the settings.
So I guess like the next question that I personally have is, now that we have this information, how as a Sampo working group will we use this to kind of reflect on decisions, to use this information for kind of this like purposeful adaptation to our decision making?
Right.
Financially. And so each working group will probably have their own process, but I just kind of want to ask that openly to the Sampo working group. Like, how do we want to use this information to help guide us in our decision making?
It's a great question. I honestly don't have an answer to that right now. I mean, I think I think that there are two things that we want to do. One is figure out a way to make sure that the token holders get access to this information. So that's part of the token holder channel. But you're asking something different, which is how do we make sense of for Sampo, but also like for the TEC more generally. I have one quick opinion on this, but I think this is worth talking about in more depth. Maybe we come back to this another day. I feel like actually some of this would be good to incorporate into the stewards calls, like, like highlighting certain questions or things would be, I think, a really good use of this time. And then for Sampo, I don't, there's a question that's still unresolved, which is, I don't think it's Sampo's job necessarily to like monitor the accounting system, for the TEC. And, but I do feel like there's like some transparency is doing that monitoring and the data reporting. And I do feel like there's some job about like making sense of that, like in doing the analysis of it, that we haven't quite figured out as a community. That's my sense. I don't know what other people.
I think that if I, at least for me, because I think the role of transparency kind of is limited to giving the information, right? So if maybe if on some of the comm stuff they say they spent $1,000 on prep work, and that's all the information they give, like all the role of transparency is just to provide that to the community, right? Whereas with Sampo, you can maybe measure the value per dollar that each of the working groups is actually giving, and I think that it has some more weight to actually go around and say, and this like ask the groups to either more information or like to pressure them on actually providing value.
Gideon, can you mute?
I think there's a background noise.
Sorry guys, my whole system just crashed, so sorry about that. So Rex, does anybody else have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I actually have. Like, my intention since I created all the transparency thing was like, to foster mutual monitoring inside the community. I don't think like there should be like neither the stewards or anyone saying what's in there and how to judge it. It's about, at the end of the day, proposals are going to go on conviction voting, and even if someone says something, it shouldn't affect like people's behavior. Like ideally, like we monitor each other as a community. But this is actually not happening, which we could explore some soft solutions. But ideally, we follow Austria's principles of mutual monitoring. But yeah.
Rex, I was also wondering, maybe I found really interesting that graph that you showed with the lines. If you could maybe just explain it a little bit more of what are like the parameters.
So the Lorentz curve is usually used in macroeconomies, so you can like check like how equal the income distribution is amongst the population. So what you see there, like it's just loading up. It's a bit slow. There we go. Basically, the blue one is just all of them are representing cumulative income as a percentage. But basically, 100% of the people get 100% of the money, and then the blue line is just if everybody got the same. That's how the line would look, and then the others actually show like how has the distribution been, and the goal with this one originally was to try and include the before and the after of rewards. So I was hoping that praise moved it closer to the blue line, but I haven't been able to do it for this one, so it's gonna have to wait until the next version. But yes, essentially, in the quarter 1, quarter 2, and quarter 3, we can see that like the TC is struggling to get a lot of valuable, like equally valuable people, and maybe like it's not as decentralized in that way. So it's not like you have a lot of people contributing, but rather is that you have a select few that kind of believe in the mission that are sticking to it. And yeah, it's worsened. The Lorenz curve has actually worsened from Q1 to Q3. It's gone progressively more unequal. So it means like people have left, and there's like fewer people. There's fewer people, or the people that have stayed. Yeah, like they're contributing less than like stewards or some. So that's kind of what the Lorenz curve is showing. It's in reality all this is just income distribution, but you can read into it and say we have an onboarding problem.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think that's gonna be like a really powerful tool for further analysis, either here in Sampo or like in other working groups. That's pretty good. Thank you, Rex.
One easy chart I forgot to add to this is basically just spending per group. I'll add it after because I think my time is very much up. So yes, but yes, do keep like them coming. Wait, is Gideon muted? He's server muted.
My crash just basically
Oh yeah.
so that I can't speak on my desktop. I don't know. I don't want to spend time trying to figure it out right now. I'll do it later. Okay, thank you, Rex. That's so cool. And I do feel like we to do justice to that thing. Like actually, it feels like we should try to get the analyst group that worked on resuscitated over time. It's just right now we got so many things flying that I don't know. Maybe if you got some energy around that later, that's something that we can circle back to. This Lorenz curve thing, though, is a perfect segue for the next section of our of the agenda. So we're about 20 minutes left. I'm gonna do my best to just kind of summarize this, and then feel free to add on if I'm missing some stuff, and then I'd like to just get feedback.
If you want, because I don't know if for everyone else, but there's a lot of background noise and you're breaking a little bit.
It's pretty bad.
Okay, sorry.
If you want, do you want me to take on that one, and I can try to explain a little bit? If you
absolutely, I'm shutting off this fan too. But go ahead. Why don't you start, and then I can jump in if I see.
Yeah, that's better. We can listen to you better now, I think. If you want to give it a try, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, folks. Just having some technical issues over here right now. But okay. So, the big picture here is we really want to try to have Sampo be a permissionless economy, microeconomy, right? Ideally, like this is like we're kind of like representatives of the economic layer, and so of the TEC, and so, or stewards of it, right? And so, it would be great if we become kind of an exemplar, like a great example of how to make a portion of the economy so that it's real easy for people to come in and engage with us, right? That's going to mean over time developing some principles and some rules about how to do that in a way that is good for the people who are joining and engaging with this economy, and also that protects the commons, right? And protects our mission and the vision and the values that were set out at the founding of this commons. So that's what I want to talk about right now, is how do we do this? So we've already got some policies that Bear has really been spearheading around, like, it's like policies and procedures for paying people who have salaries. So we don't have a lot of that right now. It's really, at this point, just Bear and me. But we've kind of got those processes down. Those kind of are pretty similar to the rest of the TC. The next thing that we started focusing on was bounties. And so NT became kind of like the guinea pig for us of like figuring out how we do that well. Like how do we do that in a fair way? We talked about that, I think, week before last. Or was it last week? I don't even remember. It was last week. And so that's like the next layer of it. And the part that I want to talk about today is praise and how people kind of plug in early on. So when we set up the budget for Sampo, I set aside some funding that I called at the time like Sampo praise. And what that meant was that when people, we're using this as a kind of an experiment. So when people use the praise system and they do it within the Sampo channel, there's some metadata that gets attached to the praise system, and to so that we can go back later and pull that data that just the praise that has been offered within the Sampo channel. And so the idea was that we would use this little bit of budget that we have to effectively top off or supplement the praise that's coming through the regular reward system. And so because one of the problems that we were seeing early on with the reward system was that they're just like, even for people who are engaging pretty actively, there just wasn't enough funding coming through for it to have like a meaningful impact for most people. There were some people, who did have a meaningful economic result from the praise, but for most that wasn't the case. So this is one of the ways that we're just like doing this as kind of an experiment to see how we can use, if we can concentrate the praise in the Sampo channel, then maybe we can generate by using the reward system, and then by topping it off with this supplemental funding, maybe that will help to kind of like make the praise system a little bit more, have a little bit more power. So that's kind of the logistics of it. Stepping back, what we're trying to do here is make it easy for people to come in and volunteer, right? And do stuff that they didn't, they weren't assigned, right? Like they didn't get a bounty that said like, yeah, please go ahead and do this. They're not like getting a salary. It's just that there was a project that needed being done. and they did it, and they did a good job, and so we recognize it. And we recognize it with praise in the channel. And so the process that we're still working through is that at the end of each month, we take the rewards data and the TEC allocations that came from that, and then we would then take our budget, that's the sample praise budget, and then spread it to kind of top that off. So this becomes a way for us to add a little bit more gratitude for stuff that the Sampo working group finds useful. It's like a way of kind of like doing retroactive public goods funding in a way. The second piece of this is so praise is kind of like one aspect of this for people who are just starting out. The second aspect of this is that, and this is something that Bear is working on, and Iran's been commenting and kind of like helping on some of this too, is a bounty board, basically. So a way for people who are new to Sampo, or even people who have been on for a while, to be able to go at any time to this bounty board and find stuff that looks interesting and claim it. So that's going to be a little bit of work to figure out exactly how that's going to work in a way that's fair and that most importantly supports the mission. But that's the second piece that we're working on is that part. And then the third piece is one that I would describe as a little bit more I wouldn't say controversial, but I'm a little bit more tentative about this one. But the idea is that in Communitas right now, we're looking at for the TEC, in order to become a member of the TEC, you would do like an initial community offering, right? And these would be very simple. This might just be like telling a story or talking about what you see as the future of token engineering, or those are things that are still being developed in Communitas. But there would be like a very simple offering that people could come in. And the idea is that this is a gift economy, right? That starts, it doesn't start by receiving, it starts by giving, right? That's a kind of a philosophical statement that we're making, is like when you come in, like it feels good actually to give. And so here we're going to give you an example of giving and what that feels like to give and be appreciated. And so what Bear and I are kind of like playing with a little bit right now, and NT was part of this too, is the idea that we might mimic that here in Sampo, so that when you come in as part of the initiation into Sampo, the first thing you do is you make an offering, right, to the working group and to the people in the working group by like the first project you do. Probably not a big project, but the first thing you do would be something you volunteer. And that's kind of your way in, is by like making a contribution, a gift to the working group. And really what you're doing is you're making a gift to the TEC mission. So I'm going to stop there and just see if that all makes sense. Also, Bear, if you have if I missed anything, maybe you want to add something.
No, I think you explained it perfectly. Yeah, I think those parts are like really related. That on one side is like compensation, onboarding, and doing work and projects aligned to the mission of Sampo. So these three parts, I think they are like super interconnected, and these projects that Gideon explained will tackle each of these needs, we could say, right? So yeah, no, I think it was perfect. So I would like to hear the opinions of the others. If there's any feedback, what do you think about this? Maybe we could pass it around, because I also feel that it's interesting coming from the perspective of different people, depending on especially on the time that they've spent here in the TEC. So probably for newcomers, this sounds different to people that they've been here for a longer time. So if you guys don't mind, and I think we have the time maybe for at least a minute each or even less, would someone like to start? Maybe Nate, would you like to start us?
Yeah, so that's covered a lot in that, and so the first thing that pops out to me is this idea of having kind of this isolated praise within the Sampo channel as a method of rewarding contributions within the Sampo working group, and kind of using the praise reward system to kind of enhance the returns and having a dedicated fund. I think that's a really good idea, and it's a good opportunity for us to kind of set an example for other working groups as well on how to properly dish praise. I think being very specific about the contributions that each of us makes, and getting into this pattern of recognizing each other's work as a kind of a cultural practice and as an individual practice is very, very important. I go back and forth on that kind of initial offering thing. I would like to have kind of things set up to where we can educate and help people, find out what the individual motivations are for each individual person, and how to help them develop. If you're interested in learning how to manage the treasury, let's have things set up for you to where we can give you the intro, give you some background information, kind of train you as you come into this working group. I think it's really important setup. But yeah, outside of that, I think that having this type of structure within the Sampo working group is going to be really, really productive for us in the long term. So those are just my initial thoughts, but I'll pass it over to Richa.
Thanks, Nate. Yeah, on the isolated praise bit, I thought that was a really cool idea. But as I'm still new, I'm not really sure I understand the mechanics of it. Like, how do you even figure out like how much praise to give, or is this like just a set amount that's given anytime you do the slash praise? And who gives it? Is it like the reviewer of a project, or is it just like anybody? So I have a lot of questions on how it all actually works, but I think obviously if executed well, it seems like a really great idea. And then the initial offering bit, from my understanding, it seems like do a project that may add value to the sample working group, and that's kind of like a way of showing that you're interested in learning and being a part of this community. And then next steps are whatever contributions that you make in the future may accrue to something. But I'm super on board. I'm not really sure I understand how this relates to figuring out like where you want to go deeper in. So Nate mentioned that figuring out like what the individual's motivations are and how to develop them within Sampo. Not sure how this aligns with that overall. So just have some questions on that. And the last bit was around onboarding in general. I think that we have an opportunity to lay out something that makes kind of like for future people who want to contribute to Sampo, make their kind of like journey a lot more seamless. I think I've had a lot of help for sure from some of the people I've pinged, but in kind of like my week and a half of just looking around and stuff, I do have a lot of questions that have come up, and I know that a document where some of these basic things are outlined would be super helpful. I know Bear's working on some of that stuff too, so yeah, it would be awesome to have something like that set up soon. Passing it on to maybe Iram?
Hi, yes, thank you. Me too. I have similar questions for quantification of the praise that's particularly for Sampo. So that'd be something I'd like to learn more about in terms of initial offering, and I really like that idea too. And going back to what Nate said, actually, maybe the bounty board and creating several categories, and being good at its organization, like creating, sub categories such as, okay, newcomer friendly, or it goes back to what you said, Nate, really figuring out what the people want to learn more about, what they want to develop themselves in and kind of want to contribute to. I think it would be good to have like categories, not necessarily named as like an initiative, not just, token gated channel creation, but something sort of, creating community within Sampo, or as you said, like financial sustainability within Sampo, etc. So just things, not necessarily vague, but kind of like more general, general aspects and general skills people want to improve themselves in. Yeah, I'll pass it to Jeannie.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, the variation on praise is interesting, and we'll see how the bounty board looks different, and see if there's any variation from D work. But yeah, um, those items sounded very interesting. Pass to Rex.
Sure. I'd say that this praising within Sampo is a cool idea and does bring kind of the praise closer to us, but it also kind of does draw away on the kind of knowing what other groups are doing and what's happening in that side of the world. I don't think there is too much communication, and like, so kind of when someone, I guess it's minimal really, but when someone praises, you kind of have to go through and kind of see, oh, what's happening in comms. There's so much praise going on there. I think we do lose that by going on a per group basis, unless we build to chat, unless we build some sort of replication onto always one channel. And with regards to the board, I do think it's a great idea. I mean, D work does work well, just having like unassigned. Now that we have the damn scripts, they took ages, but now that we have the scripts working in or whether there's something in clarity for this, like having a board of just a bunch of ideas that people can contribute is a great kind of place to go. Yeah, and I do think we need those for onboarding. My experience was Gene made it much easier. My experience for onboarding, but I have to say it was still a bit complicated, kind of understanding the whole structure.
Hey Rex, before you pass it on, I think let's not pass it on right now, because we are right at the top of the hour. What I'd love to do for people who haven't commented, so like Zeptimus and NT and Bear, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think if you have thoughts on this, maybe just share them in the Sampo channel, in the text channel. That would be great. I just really want to honor the timelines here, people's time. So we're going to wrap up now, and as always, take a look at the agenda. We've got some stuff for next week. If you've got something else that you think we should be talking about next week, please feel free to add it at the bottom of today's agenda. There's a little thing there that says next week. And beyond that, just want to thank everybody for joining today. Thank you. It's so great. I love this team. It's such a great group of people. And sorry for the technical problems on my end, but hopefully that'll be worked out next week. All right, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, Gideon.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thanks, Gideon.